Alright, good evening. What's poppin'? Buenos Aires, Sunday night. Big Rich off the fucking streets of Queens, live and direct. You know what time it is? It's time for business. Before we conduct business, though, I'd like all my gentlemen smokers to roll something up, get a little sticky, roll it, light it, little live resin. Perhaps you're into wax. Perhaps you're into shatter. Perhaps you're into bong hits. Perhaps you're into vaping. Whatever finds your remote or rocks your boat, I like to say, throw a little smoke in the atmosphere. Hold on one second. Delish. They need to come up with a weed strain called Gabagoo. All right, let's get down to business. The article's written by Andy Pete Peace. Carmine Galante hit team 40 years later, 4 dead, 2 behind bars. The storied killing of Carmine Lilo Galante 40 years ago, with his picture on the front pages of New York newspapers lying dead with a cigar clenched in his teeth, meant instant underworld celebrity status for the sextet of gangsters who pulled it off. Even though Galante was not really a mafia boss, but a would-be mob chieftain who was killed for his trouble. Now, in regards to the Carmine Galante hit, people need to get their story straight, because I be listening to some podcasts, very well produced podcasts, fucking information here and there. Now, I was listening to a podcast that said that the ice killer, the Polak, Big Rich, Richard Kolinsky, I don't know how to pronounce his name, forgive me, I don't have it in front of me right now, said that he was ordered by Roy DeMeo of the Gotti, the Gambino kill squad, the head of the Gambino kill squad, and we'll do a mafia spotlight, a mob spotlight on Roy DeMeo. I hope I'm even getting that right now. I'm freestyling right now, but you guys know who I mean. And they're in the podcast, they're like the ice killer. The Iceman killer killed Carmine Galante. Ice told this to Shatter. Shatter said, that's a fucking lie. Immediately, that's a lie. He goes, that's bullshit. He goes, that's absolute bullshit. But when, these people on these podcasts, I think it was called Kingpins. That was the name of the podcast. You guys can look it up wherever you listen to podcasts. Look up Kingpins, right? Well-produced podcast. I listen to the show while I drive around. And it said that, like I said, Roy DeMeo gave the orders to kill Galante the Iceman killer. But my main man Shatter said that's not true, and I go with my main man Shatter, so that's what it is. It's not hard to imagine them congratulating each other for a job well done on a secret rendezvous after killing Galante and 2 others at Joe and Mary's Italian restaurant in Bushwick, Brooklyn on July 12, 1979. Bushwick stand up. Brooklyn stand up. But none of them lived happily ever after. 4 are dead, 3 for mob violence, 2 are behind bars, and only 1 has a realistic chance of getting out alive. The first member of the hit team to bite the dust was Dominic Big Trinchera. His role in the Galante rub-out was to keep the restaurant staff and any customers from interfering, while 2 accomplices ran through the joint to whack Lilo and 2 Galante pals as they dined on an outdoor back patio. Big Trin did his job, firing 1 shot and wounding John Turano, the son of the owner, as he reached for a hidden pistol to defend his family. Trinchera was promoted to capo for his work by the imprisoned Bonanno boss Philip Rusty Rastelli. But within 2 years, everything would go south for Trinchera, who was part of a group that planned a bloody coup to do what Galante had tried to do, oust control of the crime family from Rastelli. Along with two other rebel capos, Big Trin was lured to a Brooklyn social club on May 5th, 1981, and killed by Rastelli loyalists led by Joseph Massino. Santo Giordano was the wheelman in the Galante hit. He wielded an M1 Cabrini and kept onlookers at bay while standing next to the driver's side door outside Joe and Mary's. 2 years later, he was a Rastelli loyalist in killing off Trinchera and 2 other insurgent capos, but was accidentally wounded by friendly gunfire and ended up a paraplegic. Giordano died in a crash of a small private plane near Bayport, Long Island. A year later, Cesare Bonventre, one of two Galante bodyguards who were in on the rub-out plot, fell out of favor with underboss Massino and was killed by a hit team led by his brother-in-law Salvatore Vitali. Bonventre, who had pumped several shots into Galante, crony Leonard Coppola, who was seated across from him, believed he was on his way to attend a meeting with Rostelli. Russell Morrow was the triggerman who killed Galante, firing his double-barreled shotgun into Lilo as the would-be boss sat with Coppola and restaurant owner Joseph Turano. As a reward for his outdoor patio work, Morrow was made a capo in 1985-1986. But in the early 1990s, he was suspected of being an informer and whacked by Vitali-led hit team on May 29, 1991. Galante's bodyguard, Baldo Amato, was sitting to Lilo's left when he was murdered. A witness saw Amato hiding behind a table with a pistol in his hand, so it's likely he fired his gun, but not at Morrow or the other assassins when the shooting started. Since, like Boventre, Amato was more loyal to the real Bonanno boss than the would-be leader. But unlike Boventre, since 1979, Baldo has remained in good standing with the crime family. And for the next 25 years, while he had troubles with the law, he managed to avoid any long prison terms while dealing drugs and overseeing a Ridgewood, Queens gang of young wannabe wise guys known as the Giannini crew, who robbed banks, bars, and other businesses and extorted store owners for protection money. But that was ended in 2004 when he was charged with two 1992 murders and held without bail to await trial. But rather than take a double-digit plea deal like many Bonannos did after Massino flipped, Amato took his chances at trial. On July 12, 2006, he was found guilty of both murders and sentenced to life in prison. Now 67, Amato is doing his time in a federal prison in West Virginia. Anthony Bruno Indelicato, the only Galante hit team member convicted of the crime, is the son of one of the rebel capos who was killed along with Big Trinchera in the Three Capos murder in 1981. That would be Alphonse Sonny Red Indelicato. Found guilty of the murders of Coppola, Turano, and Galante at the Mafia Commission trial, Bruno was sentenced to 40 years. That was cut in half on appeal. He ended up doing 13 years behind bars for his role in the three killings. Wielding a pump-action shotgun, Bruno had rushed into the back patio and blew away restaurant owner Joe Turano, then finished off the wounded Coppola. Morrow was killing Galante. Bruno was promoted to capo as a reward, but in 1981, when his father, Trinchera, and Philip Philly Lucky Giacconi were gunned down, Bruno was also marked for death and went on the lam. It took 2 years before he believed assurances that he was safe to come in. Released from prison in 1998, Indelicato was assigned to the crew of capo Vinny Gorgeous Basciano. In 2001, Bruno drove the hit car in the rub-out of mob associate Frank Santoro. This came back to bite Indelicato 5 years later when he was indicted for the murder and held without bail. After copying the plea, Indelicato, now 72, was sentenced to 20 years. This time, he'll be behind bars for about 17 years. His projected release date is in 2023. Great story. You know, the Carmine Galante hit was big, man. He thought he was untouchable. And in time, we'll do, spotlights on Galante and other people like that. But salute to my boy Shattered. You already know what time it is. And like the video. Let's not play games. Like the video. Like the video. It's simple. You listen to the video, you watch the video, you like the video, and you move on and you go on with your business. Right? Simple. Right? That's all. Everybody have a good evening. Have a good holiday.